Now, South Africa's economy contracted by 0.6% in the third quarter of the year. It's the fourth time there's been negative growth in the past 7 quarters. The 3 largest contributors to the drop in gross domestic product were mining, manufacturing, and the collective transport, storage, and communication sectors. Well, let's discuss this further in Tiego, Nwokoro. Thank you so much for your time tonight, Tiego. I think perhaps before news, simply because there is so much of it, let's talk about the silver linings that we did see in some of these numbers. Some of the services industries and how they're performing. You don't really look convinced by by the fact that lining, but let's take what we can get.
Yeah, but I'm not convinced, because services need to be at the back of a fully functional manufacturing sector. If you're seeing manufacturing scaling back like that, it means we are deindustrializing even further. This is the last thing that we need. So that's why I really cannot find that positivity or silver lining. But we can see that these are very, very tough times. We've been in this chaos for so long. Yeah. So I hope the powers that be are listening and
what President Cyril Ramaphosa has been trying to achieve. And I see the other financial institutions that have been releasing their own take then of the latest figures, in fact criticizing then some of the investment forums, specifically the one from 2018, because they're saying, well, now we were supposed to be seeing the full fruit of something like that, and yes, it seemingly is not bearing fruit, and if it is, it's certainly not coming at the right time.
Yeah. Dysfunction, if I may call it that South African economy finds itself in, needs longer-term planning. So it cannot be like a 1 year, 2 longer term, because we are dealing with, I mean, if you're going to turn it around, you're going to, if you're starting with deindustrialization or reindustrializing the economy, then you look at longer-term views. And also, I mean, you need to diversify your economy. That takes a longer time to plan these kind of things. But you know, we need to avoid the trap of falling into, recycling these old ideas that haven't worked for the past 25 years. We need to be open-minded to new ideas. We've got progressive thinkers around the country, in universities, in industry, people that have been on in the industries.
I want us to take a look in particular then at the industries that are down. Mining is a significant one. Transport, surprisingly, even electricity, 4.9%. And I wanted to talk about those first, and we'll get to the others in a moment. How significant is that?
I mean, if you're going to have mining also scaling back, it means output from our mines is contracting, and it's affecting jobs on the ground. Okay, we're in an era that even one job loss is not, we can't afford. And these mines, but they also have to be mindful of the context that we're in. They need to be, I mean, and how are they going to invest if they're not growing? So it's like a not going to be making profit, and it doesn't help that the lights are not being kept on, and data prices are not being, at levels that would allow a competitive economy.
Manufacturing is down 3.9%, and worryingly so is agriculture. You look at that figure of agriculture in particular, is it being driven by some of the effects of drought that we've had in different parts of the country? Many farmers have been warning that we would see a regression, worse so perhaps in the first quarter of next year, when some of their yields made would certainly not be counting towards the margins there.
Yeah, certainly, but we're even seeing it earlier than that, which is even more worrying. But then also context here. In the agricultural sector needs to also be cognizant of movements in the global economy. The entire global economy, I mean, we are in a post-crisis environment. And so, although South Africa can't even call it growth. So, we still have opportunities, huge opportunities to turn around. I mean, we've got experiences, international experiences that can show us, even in the agricultural sector, that we, especially where in Africa, where we of our competitive environment and the changing nature of even the climate. We need to be adaptive to new ways of doing things, a new green pact, something that is more, that is transparent. We all need to know about it, I mean, that can also translate into savings or more sources of, because that's, of course, one of the main, I mean, that's the Achilles heel of the South African economy.
So if I hear you correctly, what you think is really going to be transformation solutions that don't just meet one problem,
exactly,
but literally seeing how diverse they can be and how innovative it can be in dealing with a multiplicity of problems.
Exactly. We need, it's a multi-pronged approach that we need to come up with. And it needs to be, I mean, those ideas that haven't forever, we need to look at them and really assess if we want to move forward, because these are critical times. You don't need me to tell you that. We can all see the high unemployment rate. We need innovative ways, even as government, even as industry, even as the man on the street. I mean, you need innovative ways in which to participate in this economy.
Of course, others who watch these numbers and do the analysis always point to the construction industry in particular as being a significant mark of whether we're going forward and taking a couple of steps back. And we see that construction is down by 3.7%. Yeah. Is that a sign of the slowing down economy?
Yeah, I mean, we could. I mean, if you're not seeing development in that infrastructural space, we could see it as that. But it's more than that. I mean, if, let's say, for example, government was borrowing money and investing it in public works programs, then we'll see more of that. But instead, we're seeing debt to GDP levels that are rising, but with a rising, purse or rising wages in government. So you look at it from both ways, but in the South African context, then yes, of course, because construction also, you're talking about the steel sector, which contributes quite a lot there. But if you look at what has been happening in the steel sector, government has protected the primary steel industry. I could say, not quite at the expense, but the industries using steel as an input into manufacturing then suffer because, I mean, sources of this steel is now, you have to pay higher if you want to import, but locally you can't really get, or, there's so many things that are happening in the economy. So I guess, yes, if you gauge the construction sector, it means, I mean, there's so many multipliers and so many connectors to the economy. I think it would make sense to.
So the one story that we do get out of these numbers is the fact that jobs are not being created, nor does it look like they will be created anytime soon.
Jobs, you need to grow. And fill them up again. That's not, we need the economy to start growing. Yeah. This is what we're missing. This is that structural kind of dysfunction I'm talking about. We need to think about how we're going to support the manufacturing sector even more. And when we are negotiating or implementing these trade remedies or trade policies, we should be mindful of the full value chain effect of these decisions. And really also the concentration of the South African economy. The competition Commission
Yeah.
is doing great work there, and these are some of the things that needs to be addressed. But these, you can see, it's longer term.
Be any progress, at least tangible progress that produces real results. It does for the president and some of his plans, of course, that they have been trying to build for the country. And I think we'll get some more analysis then. The government, even the infrastructure build program that was exercised on, I think, in the last couple of years, what's happened to that, and hasn't had the desired result when it comes to stimulating then economic activity. We'll take a short break now. I'm back with your headlines, and after the break then we have a conversation around artificial intelligence. So there are these cameras that are in suburbs all over the place. Some researchers finding that in fact now the new type of colonialism, we'll tell you why.